Hello. We are witnessing the llama revolution. So today I don't have big fancy intros or anything like this. It's just pretty raw me, because we have to talk about Llama 3. Llama 3 came out 2 days ago or something like this, and it's already mad. It's already all across the large language model world. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know why you wouldn't, but if for some reason you have missed this, Meta has released a new iteration of their Llama models. Llama models are a large language model series, and they are fully or almost fully open source. We'll get to that part in a bit. But they have released very, very highly performing language models in two different sizes so far, and they look really, really, really good, like to the point where they compete with current commercial models. And they have another model that is still training, that's even bigger, a 400 billion parameter model, that from what we know so far, and it's still training, is going to be really crazy, like crazy, crazy good. So a lot of things are maybe about to change in this world where so far the common wisdom, let's say, has always been, okay, these open source models, they're pretty good for some use cases and so on, but if you really want like the best, and if you really want the most general and so on, you go to the commercial ones, you go to the APIs and so on. And now you will still have to go to an API probably, because a 400 billion parameter model isn't super easy to just run on your local graphics card. But now with open models, with the best, or a model that's like up there with the best models being available with open weights, this can potentially change a lot of things around. Like the proliferation of capabilities, people building stuff into this model, is going to be insane, or could be insane. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this. There is not, descriptions are just coming out. So they say they will release like an entire research guide. By the time this video is published, that might already be out. But so far they just say, hey, we have this new model, we're releasing the smaller two variants, and we will write like an entire paper when everything is out, even the largest model. The numbers, like the standard benchmarks, look extremely good compared to models in their own like size class. So you can see here Llama 3 compared against the latest Gemma model, which was already very, very performant, and the Mistral model, which was also considered to be really good for its sort of size. And the Llama 3 model is significantly better in these benchmarks, both in terms of human language and also code, and things like math and so on. I do believe the math benchmarks so far are more like gimmicky a bit. But it's still a good number to keep track of. Whereas the larger Llama 3 model, really, it can hold its own against commercial APIs, right? Like Gemini Pro 1.5 is a commercially available, like Google sells that, and so does Anthropic sells Claude 3. So very, very good numbers from these models right here. Then they have a bit of a more extensive blog post where they go into what they measured, the goals, and so on, the performance, human evaluations. You can see when they compare their Llama 3, the 70 billion parameter models, versus others, so Claude Sonnet, Mistral Medium, GPT-3.5, Llama 3 wins sometimes by significant margins. Just think back how strong GPT-3.5 was when it came out. Now we just have an openly available model that's not even that big, like that's 70 billion parameters, that blows it out of the water. So really, really cool. And they release instruction-tuned variants of those models. The interesting parts, the interesting changes maybe are detailed here. Model architecture, they have a larger vocabulary. So a tokenizer with a vocabulary of 128,000 tokens, saying encodes language more efficiently, which leads to substantially improved model performance. Also, they're using grouped query attention, and they've increased their context size to now 8,000 tokens. I believe in Llama 2, it was 4,000 tokens. And these 8,000 tokens, they can then be extended. So through various methods of context length extension, they can be extended to nowadays almost arbitrarily long context, obviously trading off the performance. Interestingly, the model has been trained on over 15 trillion tokens. They say that is 7 times larger than that used from Llama 2. They don't say where it's from. They just say publicly available sources, whatever that is, right? It also includes 4 times more code. So it's supposed to be a kind of unified data set, and it does contain a significant part of multilingual data. Over 5% of the Llama 3 pre-training dataset consists of high-quality non-English data that covers over 30 languages. You might think 5% is little because it's like 95% goes to English and then 5% to the rest of the languages. But in fact, I think there's enough research to show that once you're really capable at one language, you only need quite little data on another language to kind of transfer that knowledge back and forth. So having 5% of 15, that's still like almost 1 trillion tokens that is there in a different language. So in other languages. So I think it's a viable strategy. It's much more viable than sort of the people who think, oh, we're just going to collect from each language equally and so on. No, this is definitely the way to go. They also have put a lot of emphasis on quality of training data, so a lot of filters and heuristics and so on, and especially in the instruction fine-tuning, they say it is crucial. Some of our biggest improvements in model quality came from carefully curating this data and performing multiple rounds of quality assurance on annotations provided by human annotators. So saying that the data selection has an outsized influence on the performance of the aligned models. That's very good to know. Good that people find that, and also cool to hear looking back on a project like Open Assistant, where we did put effort into sort of human curation and human checking of other humans' data. Great to know that that was very forward thinking. Maybe by luck turns out that putting a lot of effort into quality of that data is actually quite important. So what does that mean for you, right? If you want to collect data to, maybe instruction tune your own models or something like this, that last bit of data seems to be quite helpful if you can curate that in a way that is very high quality, whatever quality means in the context where you want to deploy it. So along with Llama 3, they also release some side projects, I guess. They call, so one is CyberSec Eval, which is an evaluation suite for large language models, so benchmarks and things for safety. So they have Llama safety evaluations, and then they also have 2 utilities, if you will, kind of heuristics you put on top of the model. One is called guard and one is called code shield, and therefore language and code respectively. So they sit on top of the model and prevent any sort of unwanted output. So in terms of language guard, it's maybe unsafe outputs. In terms of the advice, it's maybe something like swearing or something like this. On the other hand, code shield is supposed to prevent unsafe code output and things like this. So people starting to combine these language models with heuristics on top to refine the output even more, maybe reject it, resample it, and so on. Very, very, very cool. Model card is available. As I said, weights are available for 7B or 8 billion parameters and 70 billion parameters, and the 400 billion parameter model is yet to be released. The license is a bit new. So you may remember the Llama 2 license, which was already a bit special in itself because it said something like, you can use this commercially, do whatever you want, except if you have 700 million monthly active users or something like this at the point where we release the model. So it's kind of, our competitors can't use this. 700 million monthly active users in the preceding calendar month on the Meta Llama 3 version release date. Okay, that's the cutoff. However, they have now added to that other provisions, and these other provisions, I almost want to compare them to Creative Commons with attribution. So they say something like, if you redistribute or make available Llama materials or any derivative works, then provide a copy of the agreement and prominently display built with Meta Llama 3 on a related website or blog post, and so on and so on. If you use the Llama materials to create, train, fine-tune, or otherwise improve an AI model, which is distributed or made available, you shall include Llama 3 at the beginning of any such model name. At the beginning. So they essentially use this as marketing, right? So you're free to use this as long as you include Llama 3. And I'm gonna guess you can probably give them some money to not have to do that. So it's kind of like Shutterstock or something that just slap their logo on top. And if you want to remove the logo, they don't say that you can give them money, but I'm fairly sure they would be open to such an arrangement if a suitable opportunity arises right here. But no, seriously, I think this is very, very cool. We have seen the world be extremely closed off, right? And the AI ethics crowd having the upper hand, screaming and screeching against anything that's kind of released towards a world where people release things for research purposes and so on. And some companies still do that, but now it's much more blatant. They're much more open about the fact that it is to make money, right? Like the Cohere models, you can use them for research, but if you want to use them commercially, then you have to pay us money. Like it used to be the same end situation, but it used to be for very different. It used to be like, oh, we're really afraid someone's going to sue us if this model causes some damage in a commercial application, so you may only use it for research purposes. And now Meta, at least, is moving to be much more open, and this is absolutely welcome, and this is extremely, extremely cool. And all the people like not Mark Zuckerberg, I wanted to say mark this date, but I think we've already seen that. We've already seen with the Mistral models, which are fully open source, right? And with the past, with Llama 2, we've already seen that all these people who have announced how terrible the world is going to be if we open source these models have been wrong, have been plainly wrong. The improvement in the field, the good things that have happened undoubtedly massively outweigh any sort of bad things that happen. And I don't think there's a big question about that. It's just that the same people now say, well, okay, not this model, but the next model is really dangerous to release openly. So this is the next model, and my prediction today is it's going to be just fine. In fact, it's going to be amazing releasing this. And if you want to know what happened, by the way, Meta is also releasing an assistant. So Zuck has recently given an interview where he was really strongly pro open source, not ideologically, but essentially just saying, hey, it's worked so far. We release stuff open source. People use it and make it faster and make it better, and that helps us. So Zuck is not opposed to making the next Llama closed source if he thinks that helps the company more. So I wouldn't say Meta as such is now ideologically an open source company. Maybe Yann LeCun inside of Meta is. But I would not be surprised if this sort of opening up trend stops at some point, especially now they're building their own sort of internal chatbots and whatnot. But for now, it's good times. So this has been out, what, 2 days, 3 days, 2.5? And yeah, people have already done insane stuff, like, okay, doubling its context window, fine-tuning it on an iPhone, web agents for web navigation. This one says how to use Llama 3 for regression analysis, and then the tweet quoted says, please don't use Llama 3 to do regression analysis. And I'm not sure this is a joke or not, because it says don't believe this. Llama can't run code, it's all made up. This world, I don't know if this is a meme or not, and then if this is a whoosh or a meme, like a double whoosh, I don't know. Research assistants, including it into therapist.ai, doing all kinds of stuff, fine-tuning and so on. You won't believe there is a archive paper on Llama 3. How? Okay, so my hypothesis is this, that people, we've known for a while that Llama 3 will come out at some point. People have just been sitting here, like being all ready to plug in any new model into their whatever pipeline, right? Just being ready here. And then as soon as it comes out, it's like, boom, as if they're the first one to be like, here is how you fine tune it, or we have some sort of study on it or something like this. If they're the first one, then that will be a lot of clout, I guess. So there's almost a risk. So I'm almost a bit unsympathetic to the people who like rush these things out as soon as the new model comes out, because it's just a clout grab in a sense. Like, some people for sure, they're just playing around with the new stuff, and that's cool, and it's hard to decide which is which. But for some, it's definitely just like, whoa, get it out. The faster we are, the better. I shouldn't throw from the glass house, right? As a sort of news bringer, newscaster, that's the deal with news. Otherwise, they're not news. The faster you are, the better. But still, research, I think, is a little bit different. So, yeah, how to fine-tune Llama 3. Llama 3 has been included in the LMSys leaderboard, and it is performing really, really, really well. See, being ahead of the Cohere models, the Anthropic models, except the largest one, the OpenAI models, except the largest ones, and so on. There are only very few commercial models ahead of the 70 billion parameter Llama 3 model. So it's only to guess where the 400 billion parameter model ends up, but Jesus. Okay. In other news, Microsoft has released a model called Phi 3. So Microsoft's Phi models have been going a different route, have been going a route of very curated data, right? Very high quality data. So that results in smaller models who also perform really well. So the Phi 3 Mini is a 3.8 billion parameter model, supposedly matching the big Mixtral, like 50 billion parameter mixture of experts model, and GPT-3.5, and then the 7 billion parameter model matching Llama 3 8B, which is the one we just saw is super strong, and then a 14 billion parameter model. Now, with the Phi models, and by the way, they're not out yet. They're saying, oh, we're going to release the models. This is another fine-tuning Llama 3 one. With the Phi models, it's never sure. There's a meme of calling the Phi models just training on the test set, because essentially their good data curation makes it much more likely that they will train sort of on data that's you could consider being in the test set. Now they do have, as far as I know, deduplication methods, But still, Phi is probably one of the models where people are most skeptical about the claims. Like, do the numbers on the benchmarks really hold up once you put them in front of humans and let humans decide like which model is better and which model is worse? I don't know. We will see. It's very, very cool that Phi is available. And also Phi is, as far as I know, completely open source, or will be open source. Even though here they say open weights release. Don't you dare, Microsoft. Don't you dare doing like some shady open weight stuff. That would be sad. In any way, also very, very big announcement, right? Almost going under the Llama things. Yeah, this is another nice thing I've seen Horace had tweet out. Now this is an almost real time. You can see as the person types, the image changes around. So image generators going from clunky, long running, and so on to now almost real time updating for, but yeah, I don't have access to that. So I can only show you the video of it. In other news, the old guard almost. OpenAI has made a few announcements, more like product announcements. Now I'm not usually in the habit of being like the ad person. If as long as I guess if OpenAI wants to pay me, that's fine. But I will mention it just because OpenAI is such a big part of the LLM market. So they now have an improved GPT-4 Turbo model. It has improved in vision, and vision requests can use JSON mode and function call. This is not like, these are just features of a software by now. This is maybe interesting. You can now upload up to 10,000 files for pointing one of OpenAI's assistants to these files, doing a bit of retrieval augmented generation across up to 10,000 files. Now, it was, how much? It was less. It was, I think, a couple of hundred before. So if you have use cases where you have more than like 100 documents but less than 10,000, which are, honestly, a couple of use cases. For example, I can imagine a lot of like university course material will fit into that category, where and things like that, like small wikis and things like this, they will be amenable to this. You can build an assistant on top of that. And they now have a batch API. So you submit a request and you don't get a response immediately, how you're used to, but essentially you get a job is being scheduled on your behalf, and then within 24 hours you can go and get your results. So they do that obviously because they have peaks and so on during the day, and this allows them, if you can afford to wait, like if it's okay for you to wait for a day for your results, they will schedule your jobs whenever it suits them best. And by doing that, you only pay 50%. So you pay half on the API prices. You can save some money if you have batch use cases. Google, on the other hand, has had an announcement for cloud developers, and they've kind of launched video Prism, which is like ChatGPT for videos, and Screen AI, which can recognize things on the screen and sort of do what's on the screen, what do I need to press, and what's where, and so on. Now, while this is all really cool, it's sort of the Google way, where they announce something, but then it's kind of gonna be available in Vertex for Gemini UI Studio for Google Workspace users in Google One, and not for anyone else or something like this. That being said, this announcement reminded me of that. This is from April 9th, but Google Cloud announces updates to Gemini, Imagine, Gemma, and MLOps on Vertex AI. Like, cool. this, you're too complicated, Google. Like, just make it a lot simpler, please. Also, I like this style of tweeting right here. Uh, Google just launched Video Prism, and it's insane. Here's 5 features of Video Prism you don't want to miss. Now, I do appreciate that other people actually deliver me the news, but the style is quite something. Is going to transform the future of UX forever. Here is everything you need to stay ahead of the curve. Read on. And at the bottom, I haven't looked, but there's probably going to be like a link to follow me for similar content. Yeah. I mean, it's not bad, right? So, I mean, thank you for delivering. I just found it funny that I have come across the Google news from very similar styles, and the other news maybe less so. There is another update. This is I know it says ridiculous right here, but this is a genuine human expression of astonishment and not a engagement farming text, where Google, the Gemini, is able to process raw 2+ hours of audio and asking direct questions. And in less than 30 seconds, it processed 250K tokens of audio and extracted valuable insights from that. So I do think the extension of sort of the same interfaces to like long audio and long video is really, really cool, because traditionally podcasts and long videos and so on were among the hardest mediums, the easiest mediums to consume, but among the hardest to like efficiently search over and search in. So very, very cool that this now becomes more and more possible. In the last bit of news today, I want to show you Music Gen Web, which this is by Zenova. You can try this out. This is a local model, so this is in Transformers.js and does music generation, and yeah, there's source code available and so on. Now, as always with music, I know even if it's generated, I'm extremely hesitant, because some manager, some talent manager of some musician somewhere will think that they have a copyright claim to my video if I do that. So I will not show you that, but I will show you kind of the newest kid on the block in terms of music generation, and that's called Udio. Udio is a prompt to music model, and it's really good. Like, I've listened to these things, and they're super duper cool. If you go to their website, you can see it's like image generation from the interface that is presented to you, but you can you have to log in, but you can put a prompt and then generate some music. Now, this isn't open source or anything like that. There is a pricing page right here, and if you actually go there, it says, okay, a product is free right now, but it's obviously going to, or presumably going to, cost something later, and you need to make an account and so on. So this for now is a marketing effort, so you may make use of it during the marketing effort and get to play with this model for free. And if you want something open source, as I said, the like Music Gen is available now even in a browser. All right, that's it for quick news for today. Keep your eyes on the Llama releases. There's a lot going on, and people are certainly not done. Like, the speed at which the community builds stuff is, as I said, there are some people who are cloud farming by being the fastest at something, but I still believe like the majority of the community is really well intended and just wants to make really cool stuff. And I'm absolutely super duper excited what comes out of this, especially the fact that, the weights and the models are available. So, how long until we have good sort of small loadable components in these models? And some of these exist already. Like, okay, we have prompts for sure, right? And we have soft prompts, I guess. But how long until, I don't know. Well, okay, I guess the LoRa and so on already are that. But I imagine a future where you can sort of load and unload capabilities of your model just by like clicking in a few, you know, low rank vectors into the model and click them out again, and they'd be sort of cumulative. Like, okay, I can click in the math module and I can click in the lawyer module or something like this, and then I have these capabilities there. Maybe that's already the case, and I'm just so far behind what's possible. But I could see that this could be a way towards the future, where we send these things around like we send software around nowadays, instead of just always sending like a full fine tune of the 70 billion parameters around, or like a LoRa. Even a LoRa nowadays, you kind of need to instantiate the 70 billions and then put your adapters in there and so on. It's not really as modular as I would like it to be. So I hope with openly available weights, something like this will become a lot more accessible to people than it is right now with the API models, where essentially the accessibility is limited to prompting. All right, I will stop blabbering now and leave you to be. Stay hydrated. I'll see you around. Bye bye.